Hello and welcome back to the Peak Season Podcast, the show where we make mistakes so you don't have to. How's it going, Tyler?
That's correct, Luke. Doing peachy. Having some little pain points right now that we're both working through. And I think that's really what today's going to be all about, right?
Yeah. Well, I just got back from a super motivational weekend in Montana at Bill Faith's place. We did a meetup of short-term rental investors there, and it was really cool to spend 3 whole days basically with people that are going through the same issues as us. Some a lot larger scale, some people just getting started, and we're probably partway in the middle. So, Tyler and I talked about doing a podcast like this because we wanted to share our journey with people. And today we are having an issue in our business and we are trying to navigate it. So we are just going to start what we're calling the Real Talk series. And every once in a while, we'll drop some of these Real Talk episodes.
Yeah.
So today's episode is about our growing business and our shrinking team. So Tyler, why don't you go ahead and let dear listener know exactly what's going on?
Yeah. So growing business, I'll let Luke talk a little bit more about that. But Luke's got a few irons in the fire with some new properties. He's getting ready to roll out the Almhouse, which if you follow us on Upstream Escapes, you've seen some content there of the house that's he's kind of renovating quite a bit or adding more to it, and then he just closed on another property this week. So I'll let him take on that fun stuff. But we have share a cleaning crew. Our houses are 2 properties in a specific area in northern Michigan are on the same road, and that is very beneficial to both of us as operators. And we're able to use similar resources from maintenance people to our cleaning crew. And unfortunately, we have an amazing small group of cleaning people, but we do have a couple people that are moving on to other stages in their life, and we are extremely happy for them and excited for their new journey, but also a little freaked out, to be honest with you, and kind of thinking through what is it that we're going to do and what can we do maybe differently? Or, with Luke's new additions, how can we, maybe make some tweaks here and make it beneficial for everybody? But, how does that change the structure of current state versus future state? So, Luke, why don't you jump in and chime in and give us some of your thoughts?
Sure. So just a little background, so listeners can kind of appreciate the situation that we're in, and really it's an opportunity more than a situation, but we want to make sure that we navigate it well. But these are the things that happen as we scale these businesses. So we just want to throw that out there for our listeners to sort of come on the journey with us. We promise not to complain too much. We're just going to have some real talk for you. But so we have the 2 properties that on the same road and in a really nice part of Northwest Michigan. And I bought 2 more properties. Well, I have one under contract and one that recently closed about a month ago that's going to be going live here in a couple of weeks, about 30 minutes away. So already I knew that I was going to need a different team for these other 2 properties because we knew that our team that was in place was a little constrained. So I have hired a cleaner for that property, and she's helped me with setup. She seems great so far, and she has the capacity to take on some more properties. She doesn't mind traveling. She's got a fairly large team that has been established and reliable. So she has the potential to just clean all of our properties. But on the flip side of that, we've talked in the past about how much relationships matter and how we really value our people. Our head cleaner at the other 2 properties, who's been absolutely amazing, is she still wants to continue working for us, but she has a full-time job as well. So she doesn't quite have the bandwidth to be our full-time cleaner.
Right.
So running into issues where we're having to maybe block our properties for a day or 2 until she can get to them, which of course we can't sustain that long term, especially as it gets into the busy season. And we're thinking about possibly elevating her to more of a inspector or house manager role and having her sort of take more of a non-cleaning approach, or maybe just being the backup cleaner, and she does inspections and make sure all the trains are running on time, and we slide in this other team beneath her. So I guess we've kind of got 2 roads diverging right here where we have the potential to maybe build out 2 separate teams, or do we have one big team with the former cleaner leading it? And we just kind of want to unpack the pros and cons of both those in real time. And full transparency, Tyler and I discussed this for about 5 minutes and then decided to get on and do a podcast about it. So this is as real as it gets, folks. Like, this is a brand new thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, Luke, when we think about this, to your point, relationships matter. Tammy our cleaner has been,
I think it's okay if we say her
Okay,
name. Her,
yeah.
her name. I think that's probably the only name we'll
All
use.
right,
But
here we go.
Tammy is our established cleaner.
Tammy is our
She's a
established
dear
cleaner.
friend. She's part of the
Yeah.
family.
Yeah, she really is. She's truly a part of the family. Her and her kids have helped out in so many ways, in so many panic times that I've had personally operating, a couple properties, and I trust her with everything I have. So, and Luke does too, right? So Luke, when Luke was coming on, he was asking about cleaners. I referred, Tammy, and he's seen the exact same thing. So with that said, when you have that trust and also that person is just consistent, right? There's value to that. And I think one of the things that we're kind of in this dilemma is the new cleaner, right? Which, Luke, we can talk about that maybe in a little bit too, is just, how did you find them? What are some of the questions you're asking, right? To identify a good cleaner. But sounds like she's very reputable. She already has an established business. So the concern is, Tammy kind of has this business, Amy kind of has this business, and
Ashley.
how do we get Ashley? I'm sorry. How do
Ashley,
we
it's okay. Hey, like I said, 5 minutes
see?
ago.
Told you
Yeah.
it's brand new. How do we get these people to work together? And is there going to be concerns about one person maybe being higher than the other person, right? And I had mentioned just before we clicked on this podcast really is just I think that as long as there's respect, transparency, and trust between all of us and we level set that expectation between everybody and we all can agree on that, then I think this could be an amazing thing.
Absolutely. I think it's a huge opportunity if we do it right. That being said, it could blow up in our face if we do it wrong, because cleaners are hard to find up there, right?
So hard to
So
find.
they're so hard to find, and good cleaners even harder to find. And with that being said, we take care of them well, we pay them well. There's no reason why they shouldn't be happy to to work for us above other companies. So I think if we do this right, we're really going to have a stronger, more versatile business, and
Yep.
hopefully one that we continue to scale with. Because that's the biggest thing is we want to have the bandwidth to bring on more properties. As it's no secret that we're starting to co-host. I don't plan on stopping buying properties anytime soon, and I want to be able to drop these new properties into this machine and have it function and if we need to keep adding cleaners, then it's easy to add or easier to add one to a group of 6 high functioning cleaners than it is to train and onboard somebody from scratch. So
Yeah, when you have these people in place, right? And we had mentioned in our Tech or Train Wreck episode that is going to be dropping tomorrow on Thursday. Using Turno and just some, making sure that we have consistency, right? So we have our list of, high touch, high volume areas that are like thorough cleaning, right? And then we have, we want pictures of bedrooms, bathrooms, all of these things. And then we have an inventory checklist, right? What are some of the things that we always need to be checking at every turn? That way we're not running out of toilet paper for a same day check in and we only have 4 rolls left for the entire cabin. That's going to be a bad situation. And although, yeah, somebody could run down to the market down the road, it's not ideal. And,
no, we want to be upstream from that, right?
exactly. Exactly. So, having a team, which is kind of exciting, Luke, where you said it's an opportunity, is having a team allows us the ability to have this structure in place where we have the same, sure, that the layout's different, but at the end of the day, there's, again, everybody has the same pretty much high touch areas that we really want to hone on it. Everybody
Hmm.
wants the same pictures of specific areas that we want to make sure we vet, or there's certain scenarios, right, that every host should be getting pictures. If you are not getting pictures and you're a host and your cleaners aren't sending you pictures, or you're not getting pictures, you better start doing it soon, because it's a safety rail. Somebody comes in and complains about something, you have timestamp photos of that clean, of that turn. So that's your protection against somebody coming back and saying, I want to leave the premises. They go on Airbnb and say this place is a mess, so on and so forth, and or trying to leave you a bad review.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I as you were just talking about the problem there, I had more and more thoughts coming to my mind. Like We have SOPs for our cleaners, albeit different ones now. And I know that we need to build them out more as far as they go into inventory and things like that. But one thing that I've always tried to do is when we're building SOPs for people to follow is get their buy-in on the building of that SOP. So bringing Tammy in as a manager or whatever the title is, head inspector, whatever, and having her actually build out the cleaning SOPs for
Yeah.
these teams that she's going to effectively be enforcing or double checking, I think is extremely valuable. And like I said, just an opportunity for us to really get it right the first time.
Yeah, you want to have the buy-in and you want them to own that, right? Because if if Tammy in this example, right, is the one who is putting together this SOP or is reviewing it, analyzing it, then that expectation's clear of what needs to be done and what needs to be followed and what needs to be managed.
Right. Yeah. So we have her buy in, it's developed. And with for the other cleaners, it's an SOP that's developed by a cleaner who knows her stuff, who knows the properties.
Way more than us.
And it's not just us saying, if somebody who's never even, I've never cleaned my cabin, right? You probably haven't either. I mean, so I mean, honestly, it's better for her to be building out that SOP in consultation with us, I think, than anything.
And
So,
it's funny you mentioned this because I want to plug in another lesson learned or an opportunity for our listeners, right? If you're a host and you're using your place, which you should be, if you're doing anything, I would highly discourage you from trying to save a few dollars and cleaning your own place before a next guest checks in. Why is that? The main reason is you want consistency in your cleanings, and you are not a professional cleaner. You do not know every place that gets touched, things that they're looking at that we just have no idea. I highly discourage that and highly encourage you to have your cleaners spend that money and make sure it's done right and consistent.
and on the flip side of that, even if I'm going to be at one of the properties and I'm not even going to stay there, I try to get there after a clean as opposed to before, or I don't, if I'm just going to be there doing some work or something and it might be tempting to be like, hey, do the clean after I leave. That's a chance for you to inspect and you don't get those many chances when you don't live near the property, right? So to me, it's worth paying an additional cleaning fee to be able to actually inspect it myself and to see what the quality looks like. Anyhow, so our two options, we talked about starting two cleaning teams, east area and a west area to be specific. Tyler, what do you think the advantages are? Is the advan-
Well, I think the reality is we need to have two separate teams because of, again, there's challenges that we have in northern Michigan. Commute wise, not everything's super close. People don't necessarily live exactly where our locations are, where our chalets, our cabins are at. So they're already commuting probably 25 to 30 minutes just to get to our properties. And then if you add another 30 minutes for Luke's new property, then that's an hour commute one way, each way. And, again, our people have other jobs, even the other the cleaning crews have other hosts and properties that they're managing and cleaning. So I think it makes sense to have a west and an east team because we need it due to limitations and where our cleaners are located and what they're willing and or able to commit to.
All right.
In addition to that, I think about Luke, the things that I always say the things that keep me up at night, and not that it really keeps me up at night, but things that, just randomly pop in my head. And I mentioned about this in one of our episodes where I had the 80-year-old guest that couldn't figure out the how to add charter, and my cleaner came out like real quick. And I know that's a small example, but there's other ones I just can't think right off the top of my head. I just remember that one because we just talked about it. Having somebody close by that you can rely on, that they can maybe come out and help in case the maintenance person's not there, and it's not really, you don't really want to call your maintenance person for a television problem of downloading an app, right?
Okay. So
So
Tammy lives in the west area, right? Which is about 45 minutes from the east area, give or take. But in this market, people are used to driving 30 or 40 minutes to get almost anywhere, right? So this is unfolding in real life, folks. So Tyler wants two teams, and I'm thinking, do we do one big team with potentially with some overlap?
Yeah.
So Ashley, who is in the East area, has already said, I have the people and we can clean over there. So do we take her up on that and have Tammy be the inspector slash backup and, potentially have Tammy occasionally inspecting, once a week or so into the East area?
I think it comes down to what is Tammy's availability and willingness to do that. So I
Right. And like we
think,
talked about earlier, we really want to get her input before we make any decisions, of course, about what we want to do.
yeah. So Tammy, if you're hearing this, we haven't even talked to you yet, and
And thank you.
we're going to be talking to you very soon, here in a couple
I
of
think
hours,
thought we're going to be on.
hopefully.
Yeah, I think we got a call scheduled in like an hour.
Yeah. So
So maybe we jump the gun on the podcast, right?
that's all right. Well, this will be, yeah. Yeah, no, it's okay.
Yeah. But honestly, I think this is good for people to see that this is how it works.
At the
These are
end
the
of the
struggles, and
day,
these are good
here's what,
problems to have, right? Because we got a growing business and we
at
have
the end,
opportunities.
yeah. At the end of the day, I always try to get the input of everyone. I I think again where we start is our conversation with Tammy, because Tammy is and has been the lifeblood of our exceptional cleanliness, for, since 2022 for me. So that's 3 plus years of consistent, accurate quality that I just am not willing to sacrifice. And so she is the most important to me. But again, I know that we need another group. We need more people, because at the end of the day, we don't want to get in this pickle where, we're finding out now that two of our cleaners are going to be leaving potentially as early as next month. And everybody knows that cleaners make or break your business. So we need to have backup and reassurance. So I think the biggest thing we do is talk to Tammy. Then maybe we talk to Ashley, and then we all talk together and set that tone of the respect, transparency, and trust, and make sure that everybody's able to commit to that. And so whatever comes out of these conversations, I think ultimately I feel confident that we'll get somewhere, and we'll follow. We'll do a follow up to this and see. Let everybody know what's happening, and what the outcome was.
Yeah, I think there will definitely be a follow-on strategy session after this where we kind of follow up with everybody and see exactly or say just let everybody know exactly what we landed on and how we got there and the process that we went through. And I think there was one question that you asked earlier that I didn't get to.
Yeah,
I found Ashley through a Facebook group.
perfect. And
Yeah,
we talked about that, right? We talked
yeah,
about in another podcast about using local people, because and using local social media channels, etc. But Luke, I did want to come back to this as we're wrapping up, because I think it's important for other hosts to hear. Maybe they're new or it's been a while and they find themselves in a similar scenario. When you found Ashley, what were some of the questions that you were asking? And what are you looking for in responses? What were the things that really stood out to you about Ashley that you're like, I feel really good about this individual?
sure. I mean, first off, she was very responsive when we started messaging, and because that's a big thing. You text your cleaner
Thank
all
you.
day, right? Like, I mean, I can't have somebody that takes, everybody's got friends like that where it takes them 6 hours to respond to a text. That's an immediate no go on a cleaner. So she was good with texting. She was good with follow up as well. So after we talked on the phone, I thanked her for her time, and a couple days later, she checked in. She was like, "Hey, just want to check and see if there's any other questions you had or whatever." And then I went up there and I was meeting some of the new team in person, and we had a meeting set. She showed up early for the meeting. She asked questions about the property. She seemed excited about helping me set it up. So sort of like we're talking about with the SOP, I said, hey, we're doing a renovation here, a full
Mhm.
furnish, professional design. I really am going to need some boots on the ground to help me set it up. And she was like, absolutely. So having your cleaner set up your kitchen how she would think it needs to be set up, I think has value. So she's going to be doing all that. She's actually there right now. I think I just got a text from her. Actually, she's at the property right now doing setup. She's taking down Mount Minoan. So yeah. So that aspect of it. I asked her about technology. Was she good using Turno? And she's like, "Oh yeah, absolutely." And I said, "Are you good taking pictures of everything after it's done?" Oh, she's like, "I'll do whatever you want." Like, so it's to me, there's always extreme value and willingness to do things how we want. Like you said on a previous episode, you have the robes that you hang out with, the slippers that get tucked in a certain way, right? If the cleaner is resistant to that, it's a no go for me, because we're running a hospitality business, not a not a janit. We need more than a janitorial service, right? Like, we're
Yeah.
creating an experience, not just cleaning. So cleaners that get on board with that, to me, are the ones that are going to be more successful. And then she seemed very open to my ideas, and that to me seemed like there was going to be a good feedback loop where, because nobody's perfect, but I need a cleaner to be okay with us saying, "Hey, we found, a piece of hair on the comforter," or
Hmm.
whatever it is, right? Because those things happen, but we need her to take that feedback and fix it, right?
Exactly.
So,
Yeah, it goes
so
back.
and at the end of the day, it's a gut feeling. You got to warm up. You're gonna be working closely with these people. If it's not somebody you can picture, if it's not somebody that like gives you energy, like when
Right.
you're talking to them, we all know those people. There's people that kind of make you tired when you talk to them. I can't have that in my business, right? So I'm tired enough as it is. So
All valid
right,
point. Valid,
right,
valid
right.
point.
Yeah,
And it's funny. I was smiling when you were talking about the characteristics and what you noticed and stood out. On time, recommendations, suggestions. Have you thought about this? That's exactly what happened when I interviewed Tammy. And I found Tammy through Turno, but then we kind of sidebarred off of Turno. And at least I think it was Turno. Tammy would know more than I remember. I can't remember what I did
yeah. She
yesterday.
is on Turno, so that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. But
One
those were
poacher.
that was the things that stood out to me. So it sounds like they both have a lot of similar characteristics, which is a very promising thing to hear from you because, again, Tammy's been the lifeblood of a lot of our success for the last several years.
Yeah, yeah. So I think, and like we said earlier, and just to wrap it up, I think the solution for now going forward is we're going to consult Tammy, see exactly how she wants to operate and what all she wants to take on. And we're going to unfold things from there and go back to those core values that you talked about earlier. Make sure we have respect and transparency and,
Trust.
you know, we're- and trust, respect, transparency, trust. Right. And try and build something out that is scalable. I think that's really what we need now. We need to build out a very robust team where we can add more properties to it at will.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to see what the
Me
future
too.
holds. I'm
Yeah,
optimistic about this. Last night I was freaking out a bit, but after we talked a little bit, and as we're talking through this more now, I'm excited to see where this goes.
absolutely. All right. Well, I don't really have anything else to add. We'll follow up with everyone once we progress further down this road. And if you want to follow along with what we're doing, we're at upstreamvacations.com. From there, you can find links to all of our stuff on social media. And as always, if you got anything out of this, we'd appreciate a subscribe and a 5-star review from you. Tyler, you got anything else, man?
Catch you in the peak season.
All right. We'll see everybody next time.
Bye.